शिट बोल सकते हैं यूट्यूब पे। Hello people and welcome back to my channel A Life to Tell a Tale. My name is Shamishta and today I'm back with another video. So for further videos I had a couple of topics listed out, but I wasn't sure which one to go ahead with this time. So I did a poll on Instagram. I had given two options and one outdid the other. So the first one was me sharing my part-time job story with you guys, and the second one was the truth behind studying abroad. So of course part-time job story one. So here I am to share my part-time job experiences. I never shared this earlier. In 2020 I did a video called Part-Time Jobs Explained. In that video I particularly talk about what are the do's and don'ts, what's the right way to apply for a part-time job, what's the right way to do a part-time job CV and all of that. So I'm going to leave that link in the description and you can go and take a look at it for yourself. But in today's video I decided to talk about my experiences because I often come across a lot of students, aspiring students, who drop a lot of questions on Instagram as well as here on YouTube, asking for things like, is the part-time job market saturated? Is it easy to get a part-time job in Ireland? Do you manage to make your rent? Do you save up anything after paying your rent? And questions like this. So I decided that I'm going to share my personal story with you guys so that towards the end of the video, you can get a fair understanding of how things work and most of these questions should be answered. Also, I'm going to try and give you a couple of insights that can help you understand in terms of, hacks as to an easier way to get a job, right? So without any further ado, let's get started. So I did total 3 part-time jobs so I actually reached Ireland in September 2018. But like every other thing in my life, nothing happens in one go. So with part-time jobs, so my first part-time job, I landed on one in the month of August or June, July, August, somewhere in between these 3 months in 2019. So that's a long wait, right? Nobody takes that long to land on a part-time job. There are quite a few reasons why this happened. So unlike other people, I did not have the time to plan to shift countries, right? From India to Ireland, I decided to fly within 3 hours. I got my visa in the afternoon and by the end of that day, I was on a flight to Ireland. So in terms of accommodation, I had zero planning. I wasn't sure where to live, what to do. So after 1 week of struggling of living in a hotel and also living at a place where people we knew were in India and they allowed us to live in their apartment for some money. All of these struggles happened and little to no option in terms of accommodation. So I had to go and start renting an apartment as to the first option that I found. So we lived in Blackrock, me along with a couple of friends, and like all you know, I did my masters in marketing from UCD Smurfit, which is also in Blackrock. So it seemed very convenient to me initially because it was a short walking distance from where I lived to the university, and on paper it looked like it's perfect because I am here to study, and if I can just walk up to my university when my classes are being conducted, then nothing like it. So the initial few days I was put into night classes, and I can't even begin to talk about the walks I would take from Blackrock to my university and then walk back home. I'm going to leave all of that for a separate video where I will talk about the truth behind studying abroad. But in terms of convenience of reaching the university and coming back home was easy, but it was getting so difficult to land on a job. Out of 4 people that lived in my apartment along with me, one of them was employed on a part-time job, and even that job happened through a common friend he knew and managed to land on a part-time job. Rest all of us were just struggling. I remember that I would sit in my room in the evenings and sit and apply jobs online on jobs.ie or Indeed, and I would not receive a single response. And there was nobody back at that time to sit and tell you that that's not the way to apply for your part-time jobs. The only way is to take a stack of your part-time job CV, get out on the streets and start distributing it like pamphlets. But I would sit at home and start applying, and when you're living in a neighborhood like Blackrock, which is extremely secluded and quiet, you start to believe that every other place is like that. And the thought of applying beyond Blackrock never occurred to me because, if my university is here and my house is here, then how much more beyond will I go to do a job? So I started distributing my CV in the neighborhood and never received any response really. Although today BlackRock is relatively, more happening, back then it wasn't. And for that matter, um, today people are making reels and YouTube content and Instagram content talking about these are the jobs, this is what they pay you, easy way to get a part-time job and stuff like this. But back in 2018, nobody really had access to such kind of information. So in the process of living there, I lived in BlackRock for about 6 months. In the process of living there, one fine day, I don't know why, but we had stepped out towards Dundrum, and suddenly we bumped into Dundrum shopping center, and that was the first time, apart from city center, did I see so many people under one roof. So like I said, right, when you start living in a particular neighborhood that is extremely quiet, secluded, has mansions and stuff, you start to believe that the whole of the city is like that. But when I saw Dundrum, I was like, this is the place. If there is any chance of getting a part-time job, then this is it. So I immediately, worked on my CV. It's a relatively shorter CV, not the regular one. I think I've spoken about this multiple times before. So it's a relatively shorter CV, and I started distributing it. And I got a call back from one of the gowns boutique in the mall. And they asked me to come down for an interview. So I thought it's a gowns boutique, so they'd probably want you to be dressed. And even the person who had taken my CV and said that the manager will call you, she was also like overdressed, had these long nail extensions and her hair done and hair extensions. So even I dressed up. I wasn't looking bad, I'd say. But when I went for that interview, the manager there took me up to the food court and she sat me down and asked me a couple of questions. And I never heard from her again. So I felt like, she didn't think I was, visually appealing. Not like, maybe she thought I was not presentable enough to be a part of the, to work in her store. Because they really needed somebody who would help all the customers who come in, pick a dress, or have someone suggest what they'd look good in and not. And I kind of demonstrated everything possible in that interview, but I don't know, I never heard back from her. So that was a huge setback. That one opportunity that landed in my lap, I felt like I lost it and it was very demotivating. On the other hand, I would see extreme ends of the spectrum, right? I'd see people who were studying with me bunk classes and go and do their part-time jobs because they were getting excessive hours and a lot of money and a lot of overtime payment. On the other hand, I'd see kitchen porters, people who are taking up these kitchen porter jobs and falling sick and not attending classes. So I told myself that let's not be hard on myself. We have come here to study, and if that's not going to happen properly, if I put myself through so much stress, then there's no point. And I was lucky enough that I was backed by my family. The fact that we show our living expenses can be taken care of by our families is for the same reason. So I didn't go too hard on myself. But 6 months later, 6 months after living in BlackRock, we decided to kind of try and move into a more happening locality, a more active locality, and we decided to choose to move to Sandyford. Now, for everybody who are looking for recommendations on where to live, city center is the hub where most people get employed, right, with part-time jobs. But if you think that you're living far away from city center, then other places to try would be definitely Sandyford, Dundrum, Blanchardstown, wherever there are malls, wherever you see shopping centers. These are the places where you can go and try. Now, as soon as we moved to Sandyford, then doors started opening up a little. Right where I would live, just like a 1 or 2 minute walk away, there were a couple of restaurants, walk-in restaurants, Pizza Hut, Zambrero, all these Pan-Asian restaurants, all of them. I made sure I went and distributed my CV. I started getting calls, and the first call that came in was from a Pan-Asian restaurant. Now, this lady who owned the restaurant asked me to come down for a trial. Now, this is also very common. People can ask you to come down for a trial. They'd like to see if you are liking the job. They'd like to see if you are able to follow instructions and how good you are at. Like, are you fast at picking things up, or are you like going to run in some lag? So she called me for a trial and she said that I might not pay you, but I can give you a meal in return. So I thought, why not? And I went ahead and I worked for about 2 to 3 hours for her. It was a busy rush hour, and me and Pan Asian back then had nothing to do with each other. I would just know that there's something called sushi. Beyond that, I didn't know anything. Today also, I think I'm not that great at it, but I definitely know more than what I used to. So, my job that particular day was only to greet customers, sit them at a table, offer them, serve them soup that comes for free, take their order, go and put it in the system, and when the food is ready, when the chef calls for you, you pick that food up and serve it back. Once they finish eating, you'll clean that table up and get the next customer to sit there. Now this job sounded very doable, but when the customers started placing their order, it was so difficult for me to grasp what they were trying to say. It's not about the accent, but it's about the dishes. So I thought, okay, I'll probably have to put in some work. I'll learn all the dishes. There are different kinds of sushis, there are different kinds of soups, platters, etc. But within no time, by the time that shift was over, she took my details, she took my availability, and she gave me my meal that she promised. It was a box of noodles. And she said that I will be able to pay you €7.50 per hour. And I'll not be able to give you more than 15 hours a week. Now, my problem here, now this is where I understood that you have to make sure that it's a great deal, right? I was very clear that whenever I get into a part-time job, it should at least take my rent off my head. And back then in 2018 or 2019, the minimum wage was €11. Now this was way less than the minimum wage. At the same time, she also told me that there will be days when I'll have to open the store or close the store, and those days would include mopping the floor and the kitchen. Now that was a lot of work to do for very little money, so I decided to let go on that. Within no time again, I got my second call, which was from a Mexican restaurant, which was again walking 1 or 2 minute distance from where I was living. And they also had me on a trial, but this trial was in the evening when they were just about to close, so they just had one customer, and my job here was to make burritos and help these people do meal preps. But of course, here also, on days when I would be called in the mornings or in the evenings, I would probably have to open the store or close the store, which would mean mopping the floor. But here, the pay that they offered was relatively higher, which was €9.50. So it was still less than the minimum wage that Ireland had said that time, but it was still doable because she promised me a couple of extra hours and she told me that she'll give me €9.50, which looked like if I do it well within no time, I'll be able to clear my rent on a monthly basis. So yeah, I took this job up, and within two months, I think I made a lot of burritos. A cute story is that on my second or third day, the manager came up to me with like a huge bag of lemons, and she said, squeeze the lemons, and I need a jar full of juice. And I was so worried. I'm like, by the time I start squeezing these lemons, it'll take me half a day and I'll still be halfway through the jar. Then a colleague of mine came through and he was like, no, you don't have to do it with your hands, there is a machine for it. And then he plugged that in and he said, see, this is how you do it. So within 15-20 minutes it was done. It was a fun experience. Those 2 months, I think I had a blast. I think from working at not so busy hours, then working in the lunch hours, I had a great time. Then I moved on to doing my third job. Through a referral, I got a call from Duns. So for everybody who doesn't know, Duns is a legacy store, grocery and textile. They do both. And I was called in for the textile floor. The first thing that came to my mind when they had called was, am I going to be asked to mop the floor? Because Duns stores are humongous in size. And if I had to mop one of these floors, I'd be dead. So the first thing I made sure I asked my friend to ask also was that who's going to mop the floors? And they were very kind enough to tell us that no, once the stores are closed late in the night, the housekeeping department will be here and they'll do the mopping and the sweeping and the sobbing. Your job is to just stand at the till, pack stuff. When there are not a lot of customers, then you will empty the rails. The rails are the ones that start stacking up outside the trial rooms. After everybody starts, after people trial their clothes, they go and put it on the rail. Then maintaining the visual standards of the store. All the stock that comes in, unpacking it, placing them in their places. This was a huge store. So the only challenge I faced here initially was standing for that many hours, because you're on your feet for 7 to 8 hours a day, and they pushed me at the deep end right from day one, right? So the first day I went there for the onboarding session where they did like one whole day of training, the shifts that I got was 9 to 5 for that whole week. So first 2 days my legs were gone. Then by the third day, fourth day, fifth day, it started getting better. And within 2 weeks, I think I picked up. There'd be like a 1 hour, lunch break in between, and go down and from the grocery store pick something up, eat, and then come back up. Then another advantage of working for such big brands is that, they give you a lot of perks. Like for example, working with Duns gave me a perk of company employee discount. So whenever I'd go buy grocery, I'd get like an extra 10% off on whatever the total bill was. So these are the advantages of working for like renowned organizations, renowned brands. Back then it was very unusual. I would hear these managers say that, you guys are the first Indians that we've hired for this particular branch and stuff. But another good news is that in today's day and age, when 3 years later, when I'm going to all these mainstream places like Duns or KFC or McDonald's, or these furniture and electronic stores like Harvey Norman, these are big brands, mainstream places where if there are 20 people hired, then 10 of them are Indians. And it makes me really happy to see this, because from being skeptical to hiring somebody who has just moved to their country to actually, it's a mutual thing. I think we have to build that trust, and they have to trust us back, and then start hiring us so that we can do good for ourselves. So I really think that if somebody would ask me, is the market saturated, then no, there are jobs out there. I think it only takes you to be there at the right place at the right time, show the right attitude. All they'd like to know is you're ready to work hard for them, you'll be there for them when they need you. They shouldn't have a staffing problem because of you. I think, yeah, that's your answer. Will you get a job easily? I think it takes for one to try at the right places. There are different kinds of jobs, right? It's a choice. Now, I chose to not take up the Pan Asian restaurant job because it was not good money. But at the same time, some people do take it up. Many people take up like kitchen porter jobs. They take up jobs in the kitchen where they have to deal with raw meat. Then so many people work at a bar. Now it's a choice. Now once you get into the market, once you set foot inside, be it 1 month or 2 months, it is experience. So once you do it for a month or two, then it's up to you to quit. If you feel that you have not been treated properly, then don't think twice before quitting, because by the end of the day, don't forget that you have come here to do your studies, and don't take the pressure of focusing more on working and less on your education, because it can lead to some serious disasters. It can lead to they failing you in assignments. They can ask you to do a retake, they can ask you to come in another year. Such disasters can be avoided if your focus is on your studies. When you have your breaks, then you do all these extra hours, and once your course is done, you have no choice but to do all of this till you find the actual job. So another question that somebody asked me is, did you face racism? I did once. I mean, for the lack of a better word, I'd say racism, because when I was working at Duns, one of the customers had come to do an exchange for her daughter. Her daughter was not with her. The daughter had come in the previous day, and apparently she took a promise from one of the staff members saying that if I send my mother, will you exchange it for me? And the staff said yes. So the mom was on call, and she was looking at me, and poor thing, she didn't know how else to describe me. So she's like, is it the dark Indian girl you spoke to? I took it to heart. I felt bad. Even the locals around me, like the Irish locals who were working with me in the store, felt a little bad for me. They came back to me apologizing and said that's not how she could have said anything but that. I'm so sorry this happened. I'm going to speak to her, and I'm also going to tell the manager that this happened and you didn't freak out on her face. So I think it also, you have to give a benefit of doubt to people. If people are coming to you and speaking to you in a certain way with the intention of hurting you and from where you come, then that's racism. If they, for a lack of a better way to describe you, if they've used something, I think you can let that go, let that pass. What else? Referrals. Now that so many people are employed, you will find Indians almost in every alternate store here. It's nicer to ask for referrals. It's easier to get in rather than you just walking and being like, this is my CV, please call me. Find somebody who can refer you. It always works, be it multinational companies or local stores. Referral always helps. So try and use referrals. What else could I say? The intention of this video is not to like paint a beautiful picture. At the same time, the intention of this video is not at all to paint a bad picture. everything has like two sides of the story. I have been lucky enough to have a less dramatic part-time job story. I've had people go through so much shit because of their part-time jobs, be it they have been fired, or be it people who were working at restaurants and they've had to clean bathrooms, they've had to clean utensils. I have known people who have woken up to photographs on their WhatsApp groups of bathroom commodes saying, the managers saying that today the bathroom was not cleaned well. People have not had good days. Sometimes it can be a very humiliating experience. At the same time, it humbles you. It teaches you that no job is big or small. After working at Duns, every time I go to a clothing store, at least consciously, I try to not leave anything unfolded. If I've picked something up, I put it back in the hanger, or I like roughly fold it and put it back, because I know how hard I've had to work during Christmas season, where the store is left in bits by the end of the day and the staff stays an extra half an hour to clean the store up. So it just teaches you how to be more kind, how to conduct yourself, especially when somebody else is working for you. It's a great experience. It teaches you how to be independent. The whole fact that one is so keen at finding a job to be able to burden your family less in the first place is a big win. So be proud of yourself for that. If you land on something great and if you are able to cover your expenses, then great. But if it doesn't, then be a little patient, finish your course, and then probably find better ways to land on a job and get money to make it up to what you didn't do for. Another important thing is that I came across a couple of students these days so this is the time where some people have already applied for their visa, some have been approved. Congratulations on that. For those who haven't seen flying colors yet, for those who have seen visa rejections, it's time to appeal again. Sadly, there are some consultants who are not guiding their students properly. Some, like when I recently bumped into a query that came in from a student on Instagram, I saw the rejection letter, and like out of 4 reasons that were mentioned for rejection, 3 of them were so prominent even in the student's profile before application. So if you're seeing something like that, then flag it immediately and find a way to cushion it before you apply for the visa in the first place, is what is expected out of a consultancy, right? That's why you have them. But if they're not doing that and end up giving you a visa rejection, then you should really think about it. Somebody is suggesting that, if your visa is rejected, just take your passport and your visa rejection letter and additional documents and post it to Delhi. How will you post it to Delhi? You can't do that directly. The whole process has to be followed again. You have to book an appointment with VFS. You have to go through the whole process again, pay money again, give like an explanation letter along with the missing documents. All of this has to be done. And for all of this, it's important to have the right consultant. So find the right one, walk into multiple people, do your window shopping when you're in your city, or if you think that virtual works for you, it's not a problem, then find virtual consultancies. I also offer virtual consultation. So if you're okay with virtual consultation, then I'll leave a link for you. There is a Google form, please fill it. There are so many students who have taken this service of mine and have never complained. So try and fill in that form, and we'll see how fast we can get somebody to speak to you and assist you end to end without having you go through a rejection unnecessarily. Yeah, I hope this video was helpful. I hope that this answers all your questions. I try to articulate everything in one video. My thoughts are all over the place. I'm trying to collect it and pass it on to you guys. If I missed anything, then don't hesitate. Please drop your questions in the comment section below. You can also reach out to me on Sharmishta09. That's my Instagram handle. I post content real time on Instagram. I do these polls and Q&As, so you can follow me there. Yeah, I hope you like this video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Don't forget to comment, and until next time, see you. Bye bye.